Inside the sterile white walls of Unit 731, human beings were no longer people. They were officially classified as maruta, the Japanese word for logs, because to the doctors they were nothing more than disposable timber for the fires of science. To understand the depths of this depravity, we must first look at the man who envisioned a world where medicine was used as a weapon of mass extinction, Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii. A brilliant but pathologically ambitious microbiologist, Ishii convinced the Imperial Japanese Army that the next Great War would not be won with steel or gunpowder, but with the invisible, creeping terror of biological pathogens. In 1935, under the guise of the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department, Ishii constructed a massive facility in the district of Pingfang. This facility was not a hospital, though it was filled with surgeons. It was a sprawling death factory designed to harvest the limits of human endurance. Behind the barbed wire and the high concrete walls, Ishii commanded a staff of thousands, including some of Japan's most prestigious medical graduates, who traded their Hippocratic oaths for the chance to play God with the lives of those the empire deemed expendable. The most haunting legacy of Unit 731 lies within the operating theaters where the screams were never silenced by anesthesia. Ishii's researchers believed that the use of painkillers would contaminate the physiological data they were collecting, so they performed full-scale vivisections on conscious men, women, and even children while they were fully awake and aware. The clinical records from these sessions are a descent into madness. Doctors would meticulously remove a victim's stomach and reattach the esophagus directly to the intestines, or amputate limbs and attempt to graft them on the opposite side of the body to see if the blood would still flow. In other rooms, subjects were tied to stakes and subjected to high-pressure vacuum chambers until their internal organs literally ruptured and exited their bodies, all while researchers in white coats took notes on how long it took for the human spirit to finally break under the weight of such impossible physical trauma. These weren't accidents. These were calculated, government-funded experiments conducted with the same cold precision one might use to study a chemical reaction in a beaker. While the vivisections occurred in the basement, the upper floors of the Pingfang complex were dedicated to something even more catastrophic: the industrial-scale production of the Black Death. Unit 731 became a breeding ground for the Yersinia pestis bacteria, which was cultivated in massive vats and then fed to millions of fleas housed in specialized containers. Ishii's goal was the perfection of the Uji-type porcelain bomb, a weapon designed to shatter in mid-air and release a rain of plague-infested insects over civilian populations. To test their efficacy, they flew missions over Chinese cities like Ningbo and Chengde, dropping contaminated wheat and cotton to attract local rats. The resulting outbreaks were devastating, causing thousands of agonizing deaths as people rotted from the inside out in their own homes, completely unaware that their illness was a deliberate product of a laboratory located hundreds of miles away. The cruelty of Unit 731 extended to every possible environmental extreme. In the dead of the Manchurian night, prisoners were marched out into sub-zero temperatures and forced to submerge their limbs in ice water until they were frozen solid. A researcher would then strike the frozen flesh with a heavy wooden club. If the limb made a metallic clink sound like a piece of wood hitting a stone, they knew the frostbite was complete. The victims were then brought back inside to test various thawing methods, which often involved dousing the frozen limbs in boiling water, a process that caused the flesh to peel away from the bone in massive sheets. Other prisoners were placed into massive centrifuges and spun at lethal speeds until their centrifugal force literally pulled their eyes from their sockets, or were subjected to massive doses of X-ray radiation that burned their skin to a blackened crisp, all to satisfy the morbid curiosity of men who were being paid by the state to redefine the boundaries of human suffering. As the Soviet Union invaded Manchuria in August of 1945, the order was given to destroy all evidence, leading to the mass execution of the remaining prisoners. However, the most chilling chapter of this story began in the aftermath. The United States government granted Shiro Ishii and his staff total immunity from prosecution in exchange for their research. The US believed the data was too valuable to lose to the Soviets. The monsters of Pingfang were allowed to return to civilian life, with many going on to become deans of medical schools and heads of pharmaceutical companies. The victims, the thousands of logs, were never given a trial, and their stories were buried under a mountain of classified documents, serving as a grim reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't the ones in our nightmares, but the ones wearing white coats and carrying government funding.